If you've got 25 minutes, I can show you how to go from this to this. Stay tuned and watch till the end.
We've got our stencil in here. The first needle that I'm going to be using, and bear in mind, I have been practicing and playing with my mat today, so yes, I do have residual ink in there. We're going to be using quadrant, and the configuration is a 3-round liner, long taper with a 25 diameter. So a 0.25 diameter, 3 needles in there. It's a round liner and it's a long taper. That's the Quadrant brand that I use. So we're going to get started. Now my machine is a masked machine. It's a wireless machine. So when you're lining, you go faster. And when you're shading, you go slower. Now the mats, they do, you know, they take the ink better than human skin when you're lining. So we'll see how well this one takes it. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm going to dip into my base color and I'm going to line the outside of the inner nipple. Move that down so you can see. Now, never start at what I call 12 o'clock. I always work in a clock system. Never start up here because this is where your light is coming from. If this is the lady stood in front of you and the nipple, you know, head's up here, legs are down here, this is where my light source is coming from. So I don't want this to be heavy. So I usually start at 1:15, hit it in the air, and then place into the skin. Your depth is anywhere from 1.75 to a couple of mils. It varies when you're working on the chest because the chest can be quite a deep area, but it can also have scarring. And if somebody has had a breast reconstruction, there tends to be a lot of scarring. And in my experience, I do have people come to me with very thin skin. So sometimes I resort back to an eyeliner depth and I would tattoo eyeliner at 0.5 mils. So I've lined it, and you can line in a circle, you know, and you can go all the way around, but an easy way to do it is to make a start and do, you know, half of it, little half semicircle, readjust the hand and go back around. We start with that. We remove the needle, and then what we're going to be taking is a magnum. So this is the configuration for the magnum. It is 12 gauge, 7 magnum, long taper needle. Now the 12 gauge is body tattoo talk. So in cosmetic tattoo, we talk about diameter, and we talk about 0.25, for instance. This is 12 gauge. All that basically means is 0.33. It's just that I'm using a tattoo brand. This is called the Elite Needle Cartridge that I get, and I love these needles. So we'll be using this magnum, and it looks like this. So again, I've just been using it before. So we've got 7 needles in there. So what it is you've got a row of 4 and then you've got a row of 3. Whoops, a row of 3. And it's like a big paintbrush. So it's perfect for a fluffy edge. So put it in. And now I'm shading, aren't I? So I'm not going to have the speed up high. I'm going to have the speed down low. So I want to take this back down. And obviously, you know, it depends on what machine you're having, but just start it low. My machine, its first shading speed starts at 5. So I'm going to come in at 5.2. I'm going back into my base color, and I'm going to be starting at 1:15. Now I see people dotting all around the edge, pointillism, and that's a great technique. And it's handy if you're new and you're a beginner. For me, I prefer to just brush my needle going along. If you didn't get this in, you could always resort back to a bit of pointillism. Now look, I'm hitting a tricky angle here, so I'm going to come back on myself and join that. Now, you do not want this outer edge to look as strong as the inner, right? Because we're doing a soft edge areola. That's my signature thing. So we don't want this to be a strong line. Also careful when we get to the top. And when I clean this off a person's skin, I'm not looking to see an awful lot in there. Like if I see a strong line, like you've ruined it. So a really good way to check is to just lightly clean through a section. If you just go whoop and clean through it all, what if you've not got it in there? And then the skin started swelling. So look at this close up. This is exactly what you want. Do you see the dust that I've put in? And then my inner line is stronger. So that's what I do. I just dust it in. I created all of those points that people spend ages doing pointillism on in about 5 seconds. So it works better for me. Here we go. So this is what your stencil should look like once you have, try and get all of that pen off of there so you can see the difference. Okay, so we've got a stronger inside and a dottier outside, and we've got, not as much strength on the top line there, which is perfect. So once we've done our outer, it's up to you. You could, it depends if you're doing the Montgomery glands and stuff. For this one, we're not. I used to fill in the outside, but now I don't. I do the inner first. So the next needle I use, yes, I do use quite a few, is a 5-round shader. I use this needle in everything. I use this needle in removals, in aged skin, in color corrections, for saturations on lips. I love this 5-round shader. So again, we're talking 12 gauge 5-round shader. And this is what the needle will look like. Here it is. And it's 5 needles in a round circle because it's a round shader, right? So put your needle in. Speed is still shading. So we were on 5.2. I'm going to keep it at 5.2. And usually what I do is I start slow in a person's skin until I've worked it up. Now we're going to take our bright color. No, we're going to take our shade, sorry. Oh, it's been a long day. It's been a long day. We're going to start with our shade. We lay our shade first. Okay. So look, you're going to have your highlight at the top, and your shade is going to be down because this is where the shadow is going to be cast. So just start in little brush motions, popping out that base line of your areola. And this is what I do in the skin. I brush, 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 brush. And once I'm like, yes, I've got a feel for this skin now, my brushes turn into circles. And I'll start circle motion in there. My goal is to have a little shadow line under here, and I will make it pop more. Like once I switch needles again, I'm not done with this. It's just I'm laying it all out. Okay, you see how that's working? Your nice little shade line. Now I'm known for a soft nipple. There's so many amazing nipple artists around the world, but I do prefer a soft nipple. I really appreciate the artwork of some of the other nipples that I see around the world, but I really am not I'm not fond of the big lumps and bumps and everything that you get in there. Whilst artistically it's amazing, personally I wouldn't want like a nipple that has loads of white lumps all over it. Personal preference, and tends to be what my clients prefer as well. So I think just pretty, make it look pretty. As long as it's, looking like a nipple, for me, I prefer something that's soft and nice. Now, let me show you close up what I've created so far. Wait for it to focus. See, I'm just putting in that shade line with that 5-round shader. So we got to build on that. You'll know if you've been doing eyebrows or lips, it takes a few passes to actually get your color in there. And when I'm shading, I might go over one area, 10, 11 times, very, very lightly. It's probably to be noted that I finish an entire nipple before going on to the next. There was one rare occasion recently where I started a nipple and the skin was responding really, really badly. It was, my lines were disappearing before my eyes, and it was actually in a training session, so it was good for the students to see. Everyone was looking around like, oh my God, what is happening? But that's just the industry that we're in. The skin is often unpredictable, and there's been radiation and there's scars. And so sometimes the skin is not really perfect for tattooing, but we do it anyway. So the skin is having a reaction, not a reaction as such, but it's just not taking my ink very well. So I had to reach for the secondary numbing and swipe that on, and then make a start on the other side and kind of alternate between the two. And it did take a little while to build, but eventually we got there. If you want to see that, I actually posted that on my Instagram. It's a lady who had heart nipples. So you can sort of see how choppy the ink is looking, because unfortunately I had to use a secondary numbing. And you can see I've made a bit of a shadow line there, and I've pulled it down a little bit. Now I'm going to switch needles now, because now I'm going to do my bright inner one. So I'm actually still on a 5-round shader. So sometimes when I'm doing a tattoo, a nipple tattoo, I might have 3 of these out, which is a little bit naughty, but I like, when I do the highlight, for instance, I like it to be a clean white needle. And then I like one for shade, and then I like one for the inner. And look, it's good to mix colours as well, and sometimes it's good to have that all in a mix, and sometimes I do just use one, but today I've got a couple on the go. So my inner colour is this slightly brighter one. So we'll see how it goes on the mat. I am tattooing on this real skin here. So what I'll do is, you see how I'm just always going straight down to the base? That's because I know that that part can be darker. So why would I start up here if this has to be my highlight area? That would be silly. So I'm going to play it safe, and then that way, if it's a little bit heavy, I know that that's cool, because that's where the heaviness can actually be because of the shade. So I'm in circle motions. I do work quite quickly, but I get the ink in. Obviously, the slower you work, the more ink you'll put in. If you're working really, really slowly, that's going to put in a stronger line, as you can see. And if you're going faster, so at this stage, I'm fluffing. I'm going to come back through and layer all of this, but right now I'm fluffing this. So I book out my areolas, and it'll take me about 2 hours, 2.5 hours from start to finish. And that will include a consultation. We don't do a pre-num. I pick my colors, I do my drawing, but you see how you've got that highlight in there now, and you've got this. It's already popping, see? Didn't take me too much, did it? So, now I was telling you guys about a drawing. For the time being, we'll stick with this. So can you imagine how the light is going to be popping down, and you've got that cast shadow, and I'm creating almost like a sphere. And I'm doing that by just sticking to the outer edge and circling around, leaving this dead space in the middle. I always call it dead space. If you look at my arms, I've got lots of tattoos, but there's not much white in there. Where they can, they leave, in body tattooing, they leave the skin open with no colour to best represent, white and highlight parts. And that's because white ink, lots and lots of it in the skin doesn't age very well. Sometimes it can go a bit yellowy. It can rise to the surface and look like lumpy, like a cottage cheese. It's not easy to remove, to leave some dead space. But in saying that, I do dot some whiting at the end. I mean, of course, it makes it pop and it looks really, really good. It's required, but you don't want to be putting in too much. So my technique is all about blending. I was a makeup artist when that was like the start of my career after I studied art. In tattooing, and actually get it in the skin. You can't just be, messing around and fluffing around with it and causing redness and swelling. So there is a knack of being able to get it into the skin as well. You might be able to hear, I'm just going to stop talking, if there's like a listen. Can you hear that noise? That replicates the noise that I actually get on the skin as well. And usually when I hear that noise, I know that I am in the right spot. You know, I've got a couple of apprentices here at my shop, and the depth is something that is always tripping them out. They're just like, how deep do I go? And, you know, it's a range. There's no clear answer, but, you know, it's better to be safe than sorry. Go in a little bit softer with your machine down, get a feel for the skin. And if it's feeling like mushy in there and it's not hitting firm enough, chances are your machine probably needs to go up a little bit, and you can probably apply a little bit more pressure and go a little bit deeper. But it will vary, especially because, like I said, we have a lot of scarring in this industry. So that's me with my inner part. I'm now going to go back to my Magnum needle, and remember we use the Magnum needle for the outer edge. I'm pretty happy with this speed. I'm going to go into my main base color. Again, I'm not going to start up here, because what if I put this in and then I get like a strong mark because I'm not used to her skin yet. It's better to start where I know it can be a little darker on the shade. Now I stay in the skin as well, so I'm not coming in and going out. I'm in the skin. I'll do my circle movements. So I usually work in like little pies. Remember how I did my drawing? I usually work in little pies like that, and I'll do some circle movements back and forth. There we go. And get the fluffiness in. Now, because I was talking a little bit, we've gone a little heavier here. So if this was in real life, what I would be doing is looking at the parts that don't have much ink in there and focusing on those bits now. And we'll come in here, moving that little white part there. Awesome. Really nice. And again. Now, obviously, the mat picks it up a lot better than skin would. I would estimate that sometimes I will wipe an area, 20 times. I'll do the circle motion, wipe, do it, wipe. It might be 20 times, 20 passes before I do that. But bear in mind that I'm actually tattooing and getting it into the skin. If you're just on the skin, circle motion in and not actually doing anything but just causing irritation because you're at the wrong depth, or you're not going too deep enough, or you're not stretching properly, or you're using like a shitty needle, all of these things are going to cause trauma. And obviously doing a swirly fluffy technique like this is going to be problematic. So you do have to make sure that you're stretching, 3-point stretch. I'm not stretching at the moment because I'm just working on this mat here, but you do have to build it up. Can you see how I'm sticking to that circle that I outlined? But I will go beyond that. Wait for it to focus again. So just fill in my little lighter areas. Can you hear the sound? Keeping it in the skin, circling. Now, when I get to this top bit, I like to approach it from both ends and leave it open a little bit, because again, that's where my highlight, can you see I'm trying to form this highlight coming through here? So I don't want to just block that off, because that's going to ruin my light source. We'll go here. So any parts that you see that are a little pale in comparison to others, target them. You don't want to just be doing your circles over everything now if it's all picking up colour. You know, we don't want to be coming in on the heavier parts. You want to be coming in just beside that. And the other thing about tattooing, especially with magnums and shaders, is that you always need to go further than you think, because you've got to think about the plastic cap that's millimeters beyond where the needle is. So my needles, even though it looks like I'm tattooing way beyond this line, I'm actually not. My needles are actually here, but the plastic is pushing it that way. Hope that makes sense. It was a big lesson for me, knowing where my needles are. You know, you gotta, that does take a little bit of practice, especially if you're coming from eyebrow tattooing single needle. I do hold in-person classes. I don't have a set schedule for the year. I just sort of see, you know, I don't like to hold too many of them. I really, you know, want the best for my students, and I like have to give them everything that's inside my brain. So that really takes it out of me. So I don't do many a year, you know, maybe 3 classes a year or something. I have been doing the areola tattooing in Brisbane now for over a decade. I am the main referral for the plastic surgeons, so we do manage to get a lot of interesting models for our classes, and I'm very lucky to have access to that. So the areola tattooing that I do, it doesn't just include 3D nipple tattooing. I also do top surgery nipple tattooing. I'll create another latex video for that too, because very similar technique, but the male nipple is completely different to a female nipple, and the inner part and everything is a lot smaller and